Mark. It's been a whirlwind couple of days. How are you feeling, and how was the first session out there?
You just described it. I think I've been on the ground about 10 days, 12 days. So, yeah, the organization's been great. Obviously, things changed pretty quickly. I was getting to know the players pretty well. I think I've done this for a long time. I had a good idea of, where we were as a staff, as an assistant coach, and all of a sudden you got to slide over and make some other decisions.
The club spoke about professional standards yesterday. You said you've been here for 10 days.
Yeah.
What can you shed on those standards, and what did you observe?
Yeah, well, I think that, I've only been on the ground 10 days, so the professional standards, are how we want to proceed as an organization. We're the highest level of basketball, professional basketball in this country. The Sixers name on the front of the jersey's got to mean something, and we'll go about handling ourselves in a very professional way. And, my job is to move the group forward all the time, and how we build that, how we connect the players, how we connect to the organization, to the fans, and everybody else. So that's all part of being a professional.
So, Mike, is it just a case of working harder? Those standards need to lift? Is that where you see the growth and the improvement?
Well, I don't really quite know, what was said about all that kind of stuff, because it's, as an assistant coach, you're kind of in the trench, and you're trying to organize and prepare the team for Scott, right? And I came here to be Scott's assistant. That's what the job was. I took the job as Scott's assistant, and I think that's a job that I know very, very well, being in the NBA and working for a lot of different head coaches, and that's how I kind of prepared myself. We were working to get to know each other and what the organization wanted and what Scott wanted, as a coach, and then, things shift. Now, all of a sudden, it's what my vision is for this team. I'm learning each of these guys individually, but the biggest thing for these players, whether they're NBA players, NBL players, whatever, they're professional athletes, they have a very small window to be very successful and to earn money as a professional athlete. As a coach, my job is to help them maximize that window. As an assistant, you're in kind of one role, As the head coach, it's more of an overseeing role, but our player development program and where we want to take them individually and then collectively is the biggest part of this job. And we've got to maximize that window, whether that window is for 36-year-old Jason Cadee or 18-year-old Patty Darcy that's over there as a development player. There's a different development plan for them, and it's my job to figure that out and put them in the best position to be successful, and then ultimately that'll put this team in the best position to be successful.
And just tell us a bit about yourself. You've obviously got an amazing experience, but a lot of Sixers fans that are watching tonight would say, what do you stand for as a coach? What were your philosophy generally?
Yeah, well, I think that I'm probably a little bit of all the head coaches that I've worked for. I've been very, very fortunate to be with a lot of Hall of Fame coaches in the NBA, some really good college coaches. And I think, as a player and a coach, you are a little bit of everybody that you've played for. But, very generally, I would say that we're going to be very organized, we're going to be very detailed, and we'll have discipline. And we want to put those players, like I just said, we want to develop a sustainable system that can grow, and we want these guys to be successful. It's not always going to be perfect. My job is to sort of mix and match and make it perfect, and try the best way possible. I think we've had 2 very good days of practice, but we're kind of working through this, and my role as an assistant coach shifts now, and all of a sudden, I've got to figure out a little more. Instead of just making suggestions left and right, now I got to make the decision on it. And we're working through that. And I think that the last 2 days, I think we've gotten better.
Is there enough time to implement this? We're sort of 6 weeks away from basketball. Do you worry that it might take 2-3 months before everyone's clicking on the same page with your system?
Well, I guess it would just matter how much stuff we try to implement, to be honest with you, right? We can be mediocre at a lot of things, or we can be very good at a few things. I've got to balance that, to figure out where that is and make the right call on that, right? But I don't know. In the NBA, we practice about 3 times a year, it seems like, before we play a game. We've had 2 practices right now. I know we've still got how many days until we play. We will systematically work through this, as we get ready to be as prepared as we can for our first deal. And then, where we are today and where we are at the start of the season and where we are at the end of the season need to be very different places, right? And we want to be the best version of ourselves at the end of the season. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is to drive this group forward and be playing our best basketball at the end of the season. That's what we'll try to do.
Do you expect kind of what happened yesterday to occur? I mean, obviously you didn't come into the job expecting to be head coach within 2 weeks. What was your reaction to that?
Yesterday was a wild day, right? I mean, I saw everybody's reaction. No, I came here as an assistant, and I fully was going to be, an assistant coach and get to know Scott. And, I mean, guys, just getting to know Scott and as an assistant coach, the guy's had an amazing career as a player. He's been an amazing Sixer. I have tremendous respect for everything that he's done. And I also have, a lot of loyalty to the organization and to management and these players. And, unfortunately, these things happen. As all my years in the NBA, you've been through it. Things happen. There's sort of these battlefield promotions, and things happen. And for the players, we've got to move forward. And that's how we have to work, and that's the way we're going to work. And the best thing we could do yesterday was get on the floor and try to get better, and that's what we did today, is we're trying to get better each and every day, so when we end practice, we're just a little bit better, and we keep moving forward.
Plenty of players are probably shocked, and even some that are upset. Have you spoken to the group and addressed those concerns?
Yes.
And what was your message to them?
I think I'll keep that in-house if that's okay. I think there's some things that have to be Sixer family stuff. But you've heard me just speak how positive and what it is to be a professional athlete in this country and to be part of the NBL. There's a reason why I chose to come to the NBL, which is it is the hottest league in the world. Multiple people I talked to, when I talked about different options, they said, go to the NBL. Here I am. Now, I didn't expect this to happen, but, we're trying to move this forward. I'm super excited to be here. The group has been great with me, and we'll just keep moving.
And I know it's probably awkward, but you didn't know him long, but will you reach out to Scott just to
Yeah, for sure.
break bread?
At the right time. I think, he's going through his process. We're all going through the process. Change happens every day, right? It's the transition. It's the before and after. Transition's hard for everybody, right? So, I mean, I've been a guy that's been divorced. That transition is hard too. So you regroup and you start to build your relationships with your group. My veterans have been absolutely fantastic. The young guys are working hard. I like our player development. We're going to plant our flag on player development, like I said, and moving the group forward. We'll have a strategic plan for these guys individually. And we'll really work hard for them, and I just need them to know that I've got their back.
You said you didn't see this happening, but with the NBL, in your words, being the hottest league in the world, did you see maybe being an assistant as a stepping stone to becoming a head coach in the pro?
I just thought, after all my years in the NBA, I've absolutely loved being in the NBA. I've loved my windows doing USA basketball and working under the FIBA rules. And like I've told other people, when I came here in 2000 with the USA men's senior national team, we played an exhibition in Melbourne and we were in the Olympics in Sydney. Like, the country just put on such a display. I mean, that Olympics was phenomenal. And I always thought, man, I would really, really love to come back and coach. So coaching a whole season in FIBA was something very, very exciting for me. Other than that, like, I've had Joe Ingles for 8 years in Utah. He's an Adelaide guy. He's somebody that I really am close to. And I always told him the whole time, it was like, I'm going to Australia to coach. And he's like, yeah, right, yeah. You're not going. I said, no, I'm going to go at some point. And him and Dante Exum were two of the guys that reached out to me right away. And I was like, I kept telling you guys. So, I had to back up my word on that one, I guess.
So with that said, is it a stepping stone to becoming a head coach, do you think, becoming an assistant?
No, I just wanted to put the mark on my resume as an assistant coach. I think the FIBA thing for us as American coaches, like, when you transition to USA Basketball and all of a sudden you're playing under different rules, it's a different game. An NBA game has 48-minute game, 40-minute game. An NBA game averages 102 possessions. A FIBA game's around 77 possessions. We go through a process with USA Basketball of onboarding the American players on all the differences in the rules and understanding how much more value there is on each possession. It's just been this intriguing thing, I mean, I work really hard to be the best assistant coach in the NBA I possibly could be. You're always trying to challenge yourself, and this was just another step. I always said I wanted to do it, and all of a sudden, it just sort of happened. I made a couple of phone calls, and, then it was a family decision. I had to talk to my wife, I had to talk to my boys, and see if they wanted to kind of, live this adventure and do this. And if we wanted to do it collectively, I could do it individually and want this for my career, but, there's other people's lives involved. And, everybody kind of was like, man, we're all in, let's go for it. And, you're coming in as an assistant to help, and, there's all these different conversations and emotions, and even like packing up your house and putting it in, putting stuff in storage and figuring out what you're taking. The process to move to a new country was a lot more extensive than I actually, gave it credit. You kind of oversimplify things at once in a while, and then you're in it, and it's like, oh, wow, geez. So here we are. Everybody gave me the thumbs up, and here we are.
And what about the talent? I know it's only a couple of weeks in, but what do you make? You've worked with the world's best.
Yeah.
What do you make of the talent of this?
Well, I just love the group. They've really been, they've come in from day one, willing to work. And I think that's the best thing, right? A competitive craving, maybe. I think that's what they've done in practices. And I think over the last 2 days, that as much as we've tried to move the group forward, they've been really talkative, and they've been bought in, and they're trying to do the things that we're asking them to do as coaches.
Any early thoughts on Adelaide as a place?
Well, I'm still in a hotel at the moment, but everybody's been unbelievable. I think just the people, everybody we've come in contact with have gone out of their way to make us feel welcome. It's been outstanding, and that's what everybody told me. That's what Joe Ingles told me. Obviously, he's an Adelaide boy. He's like, it's the best city in the world. And I said, well, why don't you come on home then? But he over and over, he kept telling me, you're going to love living there. You're just going to love living there. So, anything else?
Last one for me, sorry. We mentioned the 6 weeks. You've got your processes you're trying to get in place. What's the number one area you want to address first with this side in advancing?
Well, I think when we talk about different things that we'd like to do as a team, I think obvious unselfishness is something that I'd like my calling card to be. When you watch the Sixers, if you could say, man, they're really obviously unselfish. I'll leave it at that. You guys can figure out what that means, but there's a different level on offense and defense, and if we're completely connected and we're playing for our teammates, we're going to look obviously unselfish on both ends of the court.